What you see behind me right now is the best-selling internal combustion engine car in Europe right now. Yes, over the course of the first trimester of 2023, Dacia Sandero managed to become the best-selling internal combustion engine car in Europe. And that is an impressive feat for a car from a brand that doesn't really have any sort of high expectations. So today I'm gonna try and figure out why this car is the best-selling one in Europe right now, and we're gonna do this together. So this is it. This is the new Dacia Sandero, and I'm saying new because this is basically a mid-production sort of facelift for the car. Late last year, back in September, Dacia announced that it will be implementing a brand new brand image. So now cars with the new brand image are rolling out. What are we talking about? Well, a slight change in the way the brand looks like and the naming is used. For example, up here up front we have no more chrome, and the brand's logo has changed to this one, which features the consonants in the Dacia name linked in a sort of chain link, if you will. And it does look pretty good overall, and it mixes in well with the daytime running lights, the Y-shaped daytime running lights. What we also have on this car is a new color. It's called lichen green, and it looks pretty good overall. And since this is a Sandero Stepway model, it has a higher ground clearance, up to 20 centimeters, and it looks a bit beefier than the normal Sandero, like it's prepared to tackle some off-roading courses. Now, this car also comes with a number of optional accessories on it. For example, the roof rails over there are part of the accessory package. These wind blinds are also part of it, and around the back we have these metal protectors on the rear bumper in order to protect the car from scratching the bumper whenever you put your luggage in or out. We also notice the new Dacia logo on the back of the car, done in plastic and all white, huge caps. So these are all optional features. Of course, this is also an optional feature, this blacked out spoiler up top. The shark fin is also an optional feature, as is this accessory over here, which allows you to hook up a bike rack to the rear end of the car. Now, pricing is available for all of them on the Dacia website if you're curious and you want to buy them for your car. The boot isn't all that big, but this is a subcompact car, so we have 328 liters at our disposal. It isn't huge, but it's okay for a car of this size. Another accessory you could notice is this sun blind attached to the rear window. That might be a bit annoying at night. The same goes for the rear doors. They also have sun blinds on them. I actually didn't really know that this was possible. Well, the materials used aren't exactly great. This is plastic, but this is a bare minimum car, so you wouldn't really expect great materials. We have electrically operated rear windows, and the room, well, let's take a look. It's not as bad as you would think. I'm 6 feet tall. This seat has been adjusted in my comfortable driving position, and I actually fit in the back over here. It's not all that bad. And this is the new interior. We have the new Dacia logo on the steering wheel, and the most important add-on of all is the sunroof. Dacia Sandero is now available with a sunroof. It is operated by using this button over here, which reminds us of convertible cars, and everything else looks exactly the same as on the pre-facelift model. So we just hopped behind the wheel of the new Dacia Sandero. Let's talk about the way it drives and the technical platform and what kind of engines you can buy on it. For starters, this is a car built on the same CMF-B platform as a number of Renault cars. And that comes with a couple of interesting advantages. For example, the suspension offered is quite comfortable. Add in the incredibly high ground clearance of 20 centimeters, and you get a very, very refined ride, even on really poor surfaces. So we have a McPherson setup up front and a semi-independent setup at the back, which does soak up the bumps pretty well. And it is an incredibly silent suspension too. I can't really say the same thing about the overall sound installation of the car, but this is a Dacia model after all, and we have to respect that, to keep that in mind, because it cannot offer the same level of refinement as a 7 Series, for example. But yeah, at higher speeds, you do hear a lot of noise coming into the cabin. Now, in terms of engines, basically you get one petrol engine. It's a 3-cylinder turbocharged unit, 1-liter unit, that can be had with 100 horsepower or 110 horsepower. And you can also have it running on LPG, which is quite popular in certain countries because it has a lower CO2 emission standard and it's a lot cheaper to run. If you get the LPG version, it's called the Eco G. It has 100 horsepower. If you get this one, the TCE version, it has 110 horsepower. And I have to say, combined with the low weight of the car, because the Sandero, even in this Stepway version, has only 1.1 tons to carry around, you get a ratio of 100 horsepower per ton on this car, and that's a pretty good ratio. I always call it the golden ratio. If you want a car to be somewhat dynamic, you should have at least 100 horsepower per ton, and this car drives really well. I like the gearbox too because it's incredibly precise and the throws are short, but I don't really love the clutch on the manual gearbox versions. You can also get this car with an automatic gearbox. It's a CVT unit. It's not great, but if you really can't be bothered to change gears yourself, I think it's a good choice. It does make the car a lot slower though, and it does feel a lot more sluggish overall. So yeah, I would probably recommend the manual gearbox if you know what you're doing. If not, just go for the CVT. And this car will do 100 kilometers an hour from standstill in about 10 seconds, which is actually pretty okay. But it feels a lot more lively, especially in gear, once you're in the optimum rev range, and that would be above 3000 RPM. That's where the engine feels most alive, and it's in the optimum torque range. So you get full torque at 2900 RPM. So what about fuel consumption? Well, around town I saw an average of 8.5 liters per 100 kilometers covered, while on the highway that number went down to 6.5 liters per 100 kilometers covered, which is pretty decent overall. I think it's fair, I think it's okay. And I think the LPG version will be about 2 liters more overall. Yeah, I think that's a fair comparison. But at the end of the day, do all of those things turn this car into a bestseller? Is it the best car in its segment? No, not by a long shot. The 208 is a better car overall. It's better insulated, it has a lot more tech, and I think that's where the Dacia Sandero lacks the most compared to its rival in terms of tech. Sure, we have this 8-inch screen over here that does support wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, but it's not exactly revolutionary in any way. It's not exactly the best in the business. And of course, you don't really get great cameras on this car. You can get a rear view camera, for example, but the quality isn't great. You don't have adaptive cruise control, not even as an option, and so on. But what makes this car a great choice for a lot of people and why it's so popular is its pricing. Depending on where you live, it can start at just above 10,000 euros, and for 15,000 euros you can get a really nicely spec'd car with all sorts of add-ons on it. And that's not a huge monetary effort for a lot of people in Europe, so they can actually buy this car brand new. And as we all know, buying brand new does come with its perks, with warranty and so on. So once you're done with it after 2 or 3 years, you can just sell it, recuperate some of the money, and be done. And you can actually have your own car for very little money. So the affordability factor is important for the Sandero, but that just because it's cheap doesn't mean it's a bad car. It's actually a very decent car for the money you're paying for it. and it comes for a reputable brand because Dacia is owned by Renault and it does use Renault technology, and the engines are good, the transmissions are good, the suspension is good, and so on. And you have a wide network you can use for servicing it. So there's a number of reasons why this car is preferred by a number of customers. Of course, we do have to talk about the safety systems and the safety rating. Dacia models in general don't really do great at Euro NCAP tests, but that's for a rather obvious reasons. Dacia always said that they are offering the bare minimum for their cars, and that bare minimum doesn't really include blind spot monitoring, lane change monitoring, or adaptive cruise control. So since the Euro NCAP tests have changed in recent years, Dacia did fall behind in their ratings. So that's why they get like 1-star or 2-star ratings on these tests, because they don't have active safety measures, active safety systems. But in terms of passenger protection, they do okay in modern day tests. They do get a rating of over 50-60% depending on the model, so you won't really be all that hurt in case of an accident. But they don't have active safety systems, and that's why they get such poor ratings. But I'm guessing for over 60,000 people over the course of the first trimester in Europe, that didn't really matter that much. And I'd like you to tell me, how important is the safety of a new car to you, and how do you view these Euro NCAP ratings today? Because I can assure you, your 2011 car, even though it's a BMW, if it was to be tested today by today's standards, by the Euro NCAP tests, I can assure you it wouldn't get the same 5-star rating it did when it was tested in the first place. I can definitely assure you of that. That said, I think we kind of figured out why the Dacia Sandero is so loved and it's so popular in Europe. Of course, a big part of this equation is the fact that it's affordable and you can buy it for a really low price. Then there is the fact that most other cars did go up in pricing by a lot. So a lot of new cars are now incredibly expensive compared to a few years ago. And Dacia, even though it did also go up in pricing, still remains a good proposition for a number of people. And now it's raining really hard, and I hope you guys can still hear me because it's getting quite loud. As I said, Dacia remains a good product. Dacia Sandero remains a good product overall. And I think its #1 spot in the sales charts this year is well deserved. If you guys agree or not, please let me know in the comment section below. Please like and share this video if you found it useful, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Ciao!